This is light work. Come on, spill the tea. Yeah. Ooh.
Hey y'all,
What's good?
I'm Laura.
And I'm Dee. And welcome to Spill the Tea with
Laura
Laura and Dee.
What's our topic today?
I'm glad you asked. So I think tech is taking over Atlanta real estate. Are you ready?
No.
So some of the things that are like transforming our real estate are different tech enhancements that are helping with customer experiences. So all of these different AI driven tools, right? We have a software now where we can get so much information just on what artificial intelligence is putting together on data points. Virtual tours, and then a lot of this stuff is really kind of streamlining processes for buyers and sellers.
Well, I definitely have to agree. So when you look at tech from my perspective, right? So for a consumer, technology is great.
Right.
Because it helps you to see things or maybe do virtual tours or that kind of stuff, sign papers, be in California or I have out of the country buyers, right? So technology allows us to sign paperwork and all that kind of stuff. But I will say from my biggest excitement about technology is being able to automate the process for the client as a realtor.
Right.
So as we are moving forward with all the technology and all the things that we have access to, as I was coaching an agent yesterday, you were talking, and she's just hired an assistant. She's somebody who's on my coaching program, and she just hired her first assistant, which we're super excited about. And we were talking about yesterday how she's going to utilize this person, and we were looking at her systems and how she could basically automate 90% of that system, and that's so important. And I think it's so important to work with an agent and understand technology and work with an agent that understands technology, because you miss parts of your process and you miss parts of your transaction if it's not automated, even with the best of the best agents out there, right? Humans make mistakes. And so I think it's just going to continue to make the process easier and more streamlined for consumers as technology gets better.
Right. So I think some of the must-haves are going to be cloud-based software.
Yes.
Blockchain-powered smart contracts is something that's going to be very interesting to see if it actually gets integrated into...
So how long do you think it will take to get real estate data on a blockchain? Really set up on a blockchain like some of the other industries are getting set up?
Right. So... I don't know, because I feel like the first step towards that is like this tokenization of real estate.
Yep.
And so to explain that, it's basically almost like investing in Bitcoin or different types of digital currencies. But instead of having digital currency, you have a portion of a piece of real estate. And you can assign cash flows to the different tokens. Right, so it's almost like, what do they call those things? It's like Disney has the NFTs.
Oh, yes.
House NFT.
So do you know that there's actually states that sell houses as NFTs? Florida is one of them.
And that's the tokenization concept, right? So it's like, I feel like that's the first step before we really start to move towards the smart contracts and because I think title work would benefit from blockchain.
Agreed.
But it's like, getting all of the folks that do title work to understand the blockchain. Well,
and then get all of the information on the blockchain. Because once it's there, but it's getting it on the blockchain for real estate or for any industry, really. It's getting the information there that is, I think. So my prediction is 10 years. Okay. So if you're in just watching technology move forward, it could be, because the more we move forward with technology, the faster it goes. But I definitely think that it's something that we all need to watch out for. And I think that it'll continue to make our process easier and more streamlined.
Oh, yes.
Especially for the consumer. Right now, we're starting to see these, as technology takes over our world, where is real estate going? Right? As technology takes over our world, we're seeing more cloud-based brokerages come around.
Right.
And then what does that look like for the agent, right? So the change starts with us as the agent, and then it's trickled down to the consumer. So what does that look like for the agent? Well, the do not call registry has just gotten super strict. So for a lot of us, that means we're not going to be cold calling lists that maybe we would have ignored. The do not call registry. I don't do that. I actually don't cold call. So, but there are agents out there that the big brokers will say scrub the do not call list, but then the agents we're told, we listen, and there's a lot of them that don't. And so Craig and I just applied for a mortgage to buy a house, and he's on the do not call registry. I'm on the do not call registry, and we're both getting a million calls because, you know, data gets sold, data gets processed, and then people ignore that kind of stuff. And so for the consumer, everybody gets angry about agents calling when they sign up or whatever. We don't want to be bugged, but that's how we find our person a lot of times, right? So I think as technology gets more innovative, as rules get more strict with technology, then I think we're going to find these cloud-based brokerages come in, they take over, and these mega teams are what's going to start gobbling up the market, right? Because the mega teams understand the need for technology, and they understand at a high level that more than likely one person can't actually do your transaction and do it well, right? It takes a person, it takes technology. And so what we're starting to see are these teams where you as a consumer will be working with more than one person on your transaction, because each person has a different step, and they utilize their technology to make sure that they don't miss those parts in those steps.
Right.
And so I think you're going to see the whole face of real estate change. And I think it will take, we're really slow to catch up as agents, right? Like 10% of us, what's going on? And then the other 90% of us will. And could it happen in 5 years? Maybe. I just think dragging that tail end of our industry over that finish line is going to be what puts us into that.
I think you're right, because I think another industry that also struggled to get onto like the digital world is shipping of materials, buildings. And it's like there are a couple of companies now that have really started with the digitization of that, but it was only like several years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, that they started making a big push for that. And I was like, I didn't realize all this stuff was manual paperwork.
We just started. I've been in the industry for 10 years, and as someone who is 35 and grew up with technology, I would have expected my industry 10 years ago to be where it is today.
Right.
So I think that, you know, we're now, once an industry catches up on technology, then to your point, I think it moves faster. Now, I have a devil's advocate question.
Oh, I like this.
So is all technology good? Because as technology continues to get better, we can start putting up digital walkthroughs and stuff like that. We are now, and you're seeing this happen now, where agents will take and they will use AI to update a space.
Right.
But the space is not updated as you walk through it.
Right. So I was thinking about that. And my thoughts are there's going to be a lot of trends that are going to be very helpful. And there are a lot of trends that are going to be, I won't say detrimental, or I think they'll be misleading. Right. So, for instance, to your point, one of the future trends I wanted to talk about is augmented reality tours. And it's like, that's the same technology that they use to, like, you know, they can go and pull some footage from Obama and then have him say something that completely different that he didn't actually say. And it's just like, you can take a home tour of a house that has not been rehabbed,
that looks
fix it completely up in the augmented tour, and then start getting interest. And then it's just like, by the time you go out there, it's like, well, wait a minute, where's the damn house?
So I hear this often with just virtual staging. And so I'm very interested, you know, as I
virtual staging is weird.
It's crazy.
Like,
I tell clients, well, so there's tricks, right? And I think that's what, as the platform of real estate transitions into this more technology-based world that we live in, I think it's going to be important to understand how to catch things that the camera is correcting or fixing. So a big one in virtual staging, because I'll walk in with a buyer and they'll be like, oh, I thought somebody lived here. No, it was just staged online. Look for shadows. Virtual staging,
it's so
doesn't
funny.
Have shadows in
and when
pictures,
you look for those
and it's
shadows,
weird
it is
because it's missing. That chair should have a shadow on the floor somewhere. And so I think, again, it's a little catch-22. I think working with someone who you can trust, right? Like, that's going to be first and foremost in buying real estate or any business as we move forward is finding that person that you can trust that will go through the property and walk through the property. But I think that it's going to be great. My daughter and I are buying a house. She's in West Virginia right now. We're doing everything.
I think is wild.
I know, right? And we're going
to do that conversation earlier. I was like, that's really cool.
Neither one of us have seen the house, right? We're buying the house sight unseen. It is in Georgia, duplex, and so We're excited to close on it next month. We're excited she's getting her first rental house. So I'm
Right.
really proud of her at 18 years old. She's worked on her credit. She's even going on the loan.
Right.
As a college student, her credit is good enough and her job is school. And then obviously I make enough money to cover the loan, right? So there's that side of it. So she's got that. But it was really cool because I'll be able to walk through the house. I'll be able to take some video. I'll be able to Zoom with her or get on a video call with her and she'll be able to walk through the house with me. And then as we sign the paperwork, there's different ways for her to sign being out of town or whatever.
Right. Technology now.
Correct. It's all going to be super easy. You know, press a button, transfer money from a different state. It's super, super easy. As we were going through it and as I was talking to her about it, it was just so, oh my gosh, people are going to be doing this. And what if you don't trust the human that's helping you on the other side of the transaction? So I think boots on the ground is going to be super important no matter where technology comes in.
And I think too, it's going to be important is having somebody that's actually tech savvy and able to like pick up on, you know, different little nuances in tech.
Yes, agreed. I think if you pay for ChatGPT at this point, you can actually physically put yourself in a video. I don't pay for ChatGPT yet. We use it, but I don't pay for it.
Oh, we gotta try. I pay for it.
Oh, you pay for it?
We're doing this later.
I think you can actually physically tell ChatGPT to put you in a video, and it will put you in a video. And I don't know if the technology is great yet, but it'll move your mouth. And
are we about to find out?
Yeah, so I didn't know y'all pay for it on your side. It's going to be, you know, technology continues to evolve. You're going to have to make sure you've got some systems in place. If you are not the boots on the ground, but it's going to be fun. This year's going to be fun. This year's hot. The market's moving. Buyers are like, let's do it. We don't care about the interest rates. I mean, some still do. And, you know, that conversation, I don't want to make it sound like it's non-existent, but it's going to be a fun year in real estate. And I think technology is going to take over. I think it's going to come in and
I think it's going to leave some people in the dust.
Well, right. Those who don't like change, that's what happens. You get left behind. So you got to follow suit and move forward with it. But working with somebody who understands all of the technology and how it works together.
Right.
And then having those systems in place, people are going to be buying. I mean, fun. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait.
And a trend, to put it in perspective for folks, a trend that's easier to see coming down the pipeline is like, it's called IoT, Internet of Things, but those are like the smart homes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so all of those little devices, they're all called IoT devices.
Okay.
It's like, I mean,
IoT stands for what?
Internet of Things. Right, but it's like, it's a device that doesn't necessarily have a screen on it like a phone or a computer that also still interacts with the internet.
Alexa.
Correct. One of our first Internet Things device that kind of came about, right? And then she comes with a whole lot of other products that you can put in your home.
Right.
It's like, next thing you know, we're just going to have folks sitting on the couch being like, turn the oven on.
We already have that.
Turn on it, right? And it's just like, no one's going to want to do anything.
No, we have a lazy society, so learn how to not get caught up in that.
Right, but that's a trend. It's like still going, and it's easier to see because we have that kind of stuff in our homes. But it's like augmented reality stuff is still newer. But I mean, just imagine 5 years from now when folks are like, I don't want to go look in a house if they don't have an augmented reality tour.
Correct. Well, 5 years from now, sellers aren't going to have as many people through their house, right? When I list a property,
I think that would be great.
I totally agree, right? We'll be able to have a tour. Buyers can go through the tour. They can walk around your house. We're going to come in. We're going to video it. They can walk around your house. You already have the VR glasses. You already have these systems are already in production, right? They're not in our brains. It's not a dream. It's actually reality at this point. But, you know, my objective, because I'll have sellers tell me all the time, like, why are you taking pictures of that? It's ugly. And I'm like, because buyers want to see the ugly, right? My objective is not to have 100 people through your home. Objective as a listing agent is to have 5 or 10 people through your home that actually want to buy it, right? I want the buyers that come through your home to be over 50% willing to make an offer before they walk in from what they see on the internet. And AI is going to take that over. And agents that use it well will minimize how many homes they physically have to show. And they will minimize how many buyers come through the property. And then if you look at it from an investor standpoint, I mean, a good agent, all their properties are done videoed correctly. You never have to leave your computer.
I was just about to mention, I'm starting to see this more often on the investor side. I'm like networking with wholesalers. A lot of the times, I'll hear more often, you know, encouraging sight unseen offers. But at the same time, they will send you all of
Video.
the pictures, all of the video. They'll try and
Yep.
like, you can see the whole thing, and they'll be like, give it to your contractor.
And the wholesalers are getting really good about this. The people that are trying to be the middleman, because we looked at a couple properties. The one we looked at the other day that was burnt down.
Right.
That's how it was all set up. She had a video. We knew before we walked through that house what we walked into it, because, well, I think we like to waste time.
And honestly, like, I started having some of them push back and be like, have you actually run the numbers on this yet?
Correct.
Like, we don't really want you to come over here unless you've really kind of gone through those different types of things. And I'm like, well, I appreciate that, honestly.
And all sellers are getting that perspective, right? All sellers are getting that. I want less people through my house.
Right.
As technology evolves, so does the crime. So do people. So does yuck. And, you know, as technology evolves, I mean, you could have some creepy buyer who's leaving little random cameras in houses and stuff. And so
I agree.
From a safety perspective, less people through your house is better, right? And as a buyer, even from a safety concern, less houses you have to physically walk in. Like, that just keeps you at a safer. I mean, you don't know. I walked in a house one time, closing day, and there was 2 humans that had broken in having sex on the floor. Real estate. Yes, they had kicked in the back door. It was a vacant house that was in kind of rougher neighborhood.
Oh, no.
And I was trying to get my sign out of the yard, and I'm shaking. It wouldn't come out. So I wasn't even going to go in the house.
Oh, so you found out on that?
Accident. I found these 2 people.
Gosh.
Like, it's fabulous. So I was in the front yard for like 15 minutes, right?
They said they needed them a house for a minute.
They didn't even hear me, I guess. They was going at it big time. So then I went inside. I was going to get water is what I was going to get to make the ground. I mean, you sit there and you the lockbox, all the things, right? And then you unlock it. They didn't move. They must have not heard one sound at the front door when you walked in the house.
Oh my god!
It was a split level, so you walked in and the level split like per year. But you walk in at a split level. Most of the walk into a living room. They wasn't even in a bedroom. They were straight up on the middle of the living room floor.
They barely made it in.
And so I was like, "Excuse me?" They jump up. They both grab their clothes and run out. Right, because it's kind of open, so they all run out. But I never know as a buyer what you're walking into.
Right.
And while that's kind of a funny situation,
I mean, it could be a scary one,
that vacant
too.
house could have been a scary situation. Right into that house. It was only vacant for about 45 days. I mean, we listed it, we got under contract, and we got it closed. I mean, so it wasn't vacant.
I feel like people be looking for vacant homes.
They do. And so as technology evolves and as these things kind of continue to progress, you start to somewhat remove the danger from real estate, which really excites me. I mean, that dog for a reason.
Right. It's a big dog. You know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's time for question quickies.
Yay, what do they want to know this week?
All right, so can you sell real estate during probate?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
So there's a lot of ways you can sell real estate during probate. If you are not totally through the process, and this is a little bit harder, but if you're not totally through the process, the judge can always sign off early.
Right.
Once you are signed on as the executor, then probate is actually the process of liquidating the assets. So you do sell during probate. It's just kind of middle once you've been executor and everybody said, yes, this person can sign off.
Right.
And then, of course, there is always the trust to avoid probate. So we are working on, my dad's will's done, his trust is done, and he's been dragging his feet to put the house in the trust. And I'm like, Dad, all this work we did doesn't help.
Right, right.
So there's a lot of ways to get a house sold. Probate process. You can actually accept an offer. The buyer has to understand that the offer is not valid until all the right documents are done, but you can actually accept an offer at the beginning of probate. Like, so you may find out you're not the executor and the offer may fall apart. But if you do have a buyer, and a lot of times when someone's house is going into probate, there's a neighbor, there's a friend, there's somebody who might be interested in purchasing the property.
Right. There always is. We're interested.
Yeah, always call us. But they may know somebody before finding the investor or before getting it online. And so selling a property in probate is really easy. It's just a matter of making sure that your team that you're working with to help you through that process understands. One of the first things I will tell an agent that I am mentoring or that's in my program is, hey, listen, I'm so glad you got a house under contract. That's awesome. That one says it's in probate. Do they have letters of testamentary?
Right.
And so they'll go back to the listing agent. And I would say 50% of the time, the listing agent's response is, what is that?
It's like, do you know what probate is?
You realize that person cannot sell that house in 30
Right.
days. Yeah. Just understand the process, but it's absolutely possible.
We should get Craig in here to explain the process too.
Yes.
What is the difference between a realtor and a real estate agent?
Oh, that's such a good question. Ethics.
Okay.
The biggest difference is a realtor has said, I'm going to join a board and I'm going to give my consumer something, a standard to hold me to.
Oh, interesting.
That's probably the best way to look at it. If someone has not joined a board and is not part of the realtor network, if you will, what they've said is, I have no ethics. That's what it says to me. It says, I don't care enough about my industry and my consumer and my client to have a standard that they can depend on.
Right.
A realtor is going to live up to the National Association of Realtors standards and their state's standards, because that's what our board requires us to do.
Right.
And by becoming a realtor, by joining that board, that's what you're saying. If someone's not willing to join a board, it's terrifying to me. 2 reasons. One, their standard is described in their own head, right? So whatever standard they're upheld to is theirs.
Right.
And a lot of people's standards are subpar.
Right.
So there's that. That's not the scariest part of working with someone who is not a realtor. In my opinion, it's the contract. So for $500 a year, that's what it cost me to join the board.
You end up getting those contracts, don't
So it's
you?
$50 a month.
Right.
I now have contracts that are written by the attorneys the state of Georgia hires, right? And I would assume every state is similar.
Right.
I don't know other state laws, but now I have access to a whole library of contracts, right? So we have the purchase and sales contract. We have all the typical exhibits, the seller's property disclosure, the community association disclosure, the closing attorneys holding earnest money, all those normal exhibits, right? But then we have other exhibits that are, like, there's probably an exhibit for everything out there you want to do in a contract.
Sounds like tax forms.
Correct.
There's a tax form for everything.
For everything. A lot of people don't always pull the exhibit. A lot of times we'll just change it in the stipulation because it's kind of easy on a contract. But 9 times out of 10, there is actually an exhibit for that. And if you're not part of a board, that means you are probably using contracts that were paid for 5 or 10 years ago. An attorney wrote them. These smaller firms will have these attorneys write, and they're fine. I'm sure they're great contracts, but they don't get looked at.
Right.
So on the 24th of this month, I'm actually taking the 2025 GAR contract changes, right? Like, I'm taking that as a class. I'm going to go sit down with the attorneys. They 3-hour class. They review all the changes. Some of those changes in the contracts are no big deal, right? Their periods moved or commas moved. Like, some just, it's a punctuation. It's like, oh, that does change the sentence a little bit.
Right.
But some of them are huge. Let's take 2020, for example. When COVID hit and you could no longer walk in someone's home and you might be sick, dying from COVID and can't get to the closing table, right? The Georgia Association of Realtors sat down real quick in 2020 and put stipulations in our contracts that protected that moment in time. Okay? Not only is your real estate agent only upholding what they feel is ethical.
Right.
Most people have pretty good ethical morals, okay? Let's be honest. 90% of us don't want to be an asshole.
Yes.
Fine. We're gonna go with the glasses half full today, okay? It's those contracts, right? Like, why would you want to put your name down to buy the most expensive asset that you're ever going to buy on a contract that hasn't been looked at for 5 years by an attorney?
Right. That's
You're
a good
paying
point.
me the same amount of money you're
Right.
paying a real estate agent. It is
Right.
going to cost you 3%.
That's
They
a good
don't
point.
discount their rate.
And really, to alleviate that, all you have to do is just ask, are you a realtor or are you a real estate agent?
Correct.
And you would hope they wouldn't lie.
Well, if they do and they're real estate agent, there's nobody to go call and complain
Right.
to.
Right.
So, work with those people.
Oh, goodness. So, last question. Where can I buy tokenized real estate? So, there's a couple of different places.
Okay.
T is one. That's one that I've actually looked at. I also have Proppy.
Realty, REA or REE?
REALT.
Okay, so like real estate. Okay.
And then blockchain, app factory, app work, and then token state. Those are the most popular.
Now
right
explain what they're buying, because I don't know much about this. I've learned some about
Yeah.
the blockchain and the crypto world and tokenization, but I'm still on the forefront of that. So explain how that works.
I'll explain how it works. So the way I kind of put it together is for stocks, for the longest time, you had to buy a whole stock.
Yes.
You couldn't just buy like a fraction of a stock.
That's a great description. Yep.
Yeah. Now you can buy fractional shares.
Yeah.
It's the same concept for tokenized real estate. Now you can buy shares of a house, but it's tokenized. So they're using like the technology to allow folks to kind of into properties, and they'll assign cash flow to a token.
Okay.
Right, so like for instance, let's say you buy a token that is 10% of a rental property, and the rental property cash flows $1,000. Well, then
Right.
your token's gonna get $100 per month, or something like that. That's kind of how that works.
Got
So
it.
it's
your
almost
portion less the fees.
yeah, it's almost like a different way of crowdsourcing.
Crowdfunding.
It's a very interesting topic, and I actually really kind of keep up with it to see like how it.
Well, I think we need to.
transpires.
I think we need to, because you've got a lot of states that are using cryptocurrency to purchase homes. I guess if you tokenize a home, it's a little bit different than actually using crypto to buy, because crypto goes up and down so fast. And so I know when you're buying property with crypto, it's a lot of times they want to see your crypto account, but then they want you to convert it fairly quickly,
Right.
because Bitcoin's worth 90,000 today, and it could be 30,000 tomorrow, and it could be back up to like it's so.
Right.
So I'm interested to see how that all.
Good point, because usually like when you go to close on a house, they want proof of funds. It's like, oh,
so
you know,
crypto
I've got,
has thrown a wrench.
Right.
Yeah, there's been some
Oh.
weird transactions. Florida's a really good state to keep up with. There are some agents that are doing crypto exchanges at a pretty high rate in
Okay.
Florida. You've got a couple others in Colorado. There's probably some in California. I don't know them personally.
Right.
I know the Florida people, and I know the Colorado people personally. I've taken some classes with them to kind of keep up with how crypto affects the housing market, but I am interested to see how the housing market gets affected as the houses start getting on blockchain and that sort of stuff starts happening.
Right. Exactly.
So cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today on Spill the Tea with Laura and Dee. As always, if you thought this was helpful and or entertaining, hit the heart or send to a friend. Also, if you have any questions for a house flipper or a realtor, drop a note below and we'll answer them in an upcoming video.
This is light work. Come on, spill the tea. Yeah. Ooh.